A wine glass shattered on the billionaire's marble floor. "Are you blind, old woman?" a young lady screamed, her voice dripping with disgust. She pushed the cleaner so hard, the mop bucket spilled dirty water across the room. Guests gasped, some even laughed. But what no one knew was that old cleaner was Eleanor Cole, the billionaire's mother. She had disguised herself to see the truth behind the pretty faces chasing after her son. Tonight she would find out who was genuine and who was only after wealth. Grab your snacks, sit down, and stick with us as we unfold this incredible story. And remember to like and subscribe to my channel. Eleanor slowly straightened her back, her wrinkled hands tightening around the mop handle. The arrogant girl smirked, thinking she had humiliated a nobody. But Eleanor's eyes glistened with quiet fire. Good, she thought. Now the game begins. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, violins played softly in the background, and waiters carried trays of champagne. Adrian Cole, the billionaire's only son, was the reason the mansion was filled with beautiful, ambitious women tonight. But in the corner, pushing her mop, Eleanor Cole continued her act as a cleaner. No one knew the truth, not even Adrian himself. Eleanor's eyes scanned the room. One by one, she studied the women. The first girl she noticed was Vanessa, tall, glamorous, her red gown shimmering like fire. She walked as if she owned the world, her chin raised high. When a waiter accidentally brushed her arm, spilling a drop of champagne on her dress, Vanessa exploded. "Are you stupid? Do you even know how much this costs?" she yelled, slapping the tray out of his hand. Glass shattered and everyone turned. The poor waiter stammered apologies, his face red with embarrassment. Vanessa scoffed and shoved him aside. "Get this trash away from me." Some guests chuckled nervously, but Eleanor's lips tightened. So much pride, so little heart. Then Eleanor's gaze moved to the opposite side of the room. There, she saw a young woman in a simple blue dress. Clara. Unlike the others dripping in diamonds, Clara wore no jewelry except a small silver pendant around her neck. While the rich women gossiped and competed for attention, Clara quietly helped the same waiter pick up the broken glasses. "Don't cry," she whispered to him with a smile. "It's just glass. No one got hurt. That's what matters." Eleanor's eyes softened. Interesting. Very interesting. But the night was just beginning. Moments later, Vanessa strutted toward Adrian, teasing her hair. "Adrian," she purred, touching his arm, "you need a woman of class. Someone who can handle your world of wealth." Clara, standing a few steps away, heard the words but said nothing. She only watched, her eyes calm, her posture modest. But then fate played another card. A little girl, one of the servants' daughters, ran into the hall chasing a ball. She tripped and fell right at Vanessa's feet. Instead of helping, Vanessa snarled, "Whose brat is this? Get her out before she dirties my dress." She kicked the ball across the room. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Before anyone could react, Clara bent down, lifted the crying child, and brushed the dust off her knees. "It's okay, sweetheart," she said softly. She picked up the ball herself and placed it back in the girl's tiny hands. The difference between the two women couldn't have been clearer. Eleanor's heart pounded as she wiped an already spotless corner of the floor, pretending not to watch. So one flaunts her pride, while the other shows kindness. But which one will my son choose? The evening dragged on, filled with laughter, gossip, and wine. But Eleanor could feel the storm building. Every word spoken, every careless action, she was memorizing it all. And soon, very soon, she would know who deserved to be her son's wife. The party raged on, but Eleanor Cole had already made up her mind. If she wanted to see the women's true hearts, she couldn't just wait. She had to test them. So when the music slowed and Adrian disappeared into a conversation with business partners, Eleanor slipped into the hallway and spoke quietly to the head butler. "Spill a tray of drinks on me when I return," she whispered, "and make sure the young women see it." The butler's brows furrowed. He didn't know why the old cleaner wanted this humiliation, but he nodded. "As you wish." Moments later, Eleanor shuffled back into the ballroom, pushing her mop as if nothing had happened. She pretended to lose her balance, and right on cue, the butler stumbled, sending a full tray of red wine crashing against her uniform. The room froze. Crimson liquid drenched Eleanor from head to toe. dripping down her arms and soaking her faded scarf. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then came the laughter. Vanessa's shrill voice rang out first. Ugh, disgusting. Can't the staff keep this place clean? Look at her, she smells like a barfucked already. A group of other women joined in, covering their mouths with manicured hands. Ooh, she should be fired. She looks pathetic. Honestly, she doesn't belong in a place like this. Eleanor kept her head bowed, her face hidden, but her heart burned. Every insult confirmed why she had worn this disguise. But then, Clara. Clara's chair screeched as she stood up quickly. Without hesitation, she grabbed a napkin from the table and rushed to Eleanor's side. Oh no, are you okay? You must be freezing, Clara asked, dabbing gently at the soaked scarf. It's fine, miss, Eleanor muttered in her disguised voice. Just part of the job. Clara shook her head. No, nobody should be treated like this. Here. She removed her own shawl and draped it over Eleanor's shoulders. Gasps fluttered through the guests. A servant helping a servant? Unheard of. Vanessa rolled her eyes and muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. Honestly, Clara, you're embarrassing yourself. She's just a cleaner. Why waste your time? Clara turned, her calm eyes locking with Vanessa's sharp ones. Because dignity doesn't depend on money or position. Everyone deserves kindness. The room went quiet. Even Adrian, who had just returned, froze as he caught the end of Clara's words. His gaze shifted from Clara to the drenched cleaner, then back again. Something flickered in his expression. But Eleanor wasn't finished. She had planned more. As the butler helped her toward the kitchen, Eleanor dropped a small golden bracelet onto the carpet. Deliberately. It gleamed under the chandelier. Vanessa spotted it first. She bent quickly, her fingers snatching it up. Well, well, she whispered to herself, slipping it into her clutch. She didn't notice Eleanor's sharp glance. Clara, however, also saw the bracelet fall. She picked up her shawl and rushed after Eleanor. Wait, you dropped something, Clara called, holding the bracelet in her hand. But by then, Eleanor had already disappeared through the kitchen doors. Clara frowned, staring at the bracelet, torn between returning to the ballroom or chasing after the cleaner. She chose to chase. Inside the kitchen, Eleanor sat on a stool, still drenched. She looked up in surprise as Clara appeared, slightly out of breath. You left this behind, Clara said softly, holding out the bracelet. Eleanor accepted it slowly, her eyes shining. You're different, she murmured. Clara tilted her head. Different how? Eleanor forced a smile. Most people step over the poor. You stop to help them. Clara shrugged modestly. My mother always told me wealth fades, but kindness lasts forever. The words pierced Eleanor's heart like an arrow. She hadn't heard such wisdom in years. Before she could reply, the kitchen doors burst open. Vanessa strutted in, clutch in hand, a fake smile plastered across her face. There you are, she said sweetly, though her eyes flicked with annoyance at Clara. Adrian is looking for you, Clara. You really shouldn't waste your time here. Her hand tightened on her clutch. Eleanor noticed. Oh? Eleanor asked quietly. And what about the bracelet? Vanessa blinked. What bracelet? Eleanor pointed. The golden one in your clutch. The room went cold. Clara's eyes widened. You took it? Vanessa's face flushed. She laughed nervously. Don't be ridiculous. Why would I steal from a cleaner? Eleanor leaned forward, her gaze piercing through the disguise of wrinkles. For a moment, her voice carried a weight that silenced both women. Because greed doesn't care if it's gold or diamonds. It only cares that it belongs to someone else. Vanessa stammered, trying to defend herself, but Adrian appeared at the doorway, his eyes sharp. What's going on here? Clara stepped forward before Eleanor could speak. Adrian, Clara hesitated, glancing at Eleanor, then lowered her voice. She took something that wasn't hers. Vanessa gasped dramatically. You liar! You're just jealous because Adrian prefers me. The argument grew tense, voices rising. Guests began peeking into the kitchen, curious. But Eleanor stood up, water dripping from her scarf, and whispered to herself, the test is working. The masks are falling. Tonight she had seen enough to know who wore a heart of gold and who was rotting behind a diamond smile. And this was only the beginning. The tension in the kitchen lingered long after the wine incident. Vanessa had stormed back into the ballroom, her heels clicking like gunshots against the marble floor, muttering curses under her breath. Clara remained behind, quietly helping Eleanor wring out her wet scarf. But Eleanor's mind was racing. It's not enough to see how they treat me. I need to see how they treat each other, especially when wealth is dangled in front of them. She devised her next test. By the time she returned to the ballroom, she had changed into a fresh cleaner's uniform from the supply closet. The whispers began immediately. Did you see the old hag covered in wine? She should have been fired. Ugly mess, but Eleanor ignored them. Her eyes were fixed on Adrian, who had returned to the center of the room. Women swarmed around him like bees to honey, each desperate to catch his attention. Adrian, have you seen the new gallery in Paris? We should fly there together. Darling, I have connections in Milan. You'd look divine in Italian suits. My father owns land in Dubai. We could expand your empire there. Every sentence was bait, dripping with promises of wealth, status, and power. Adrian's polite smile never faltered, but his eyes, they were tired. From the corner, Clara watched. She didn't push her way forward. She didn't compete. She simply stayed where she was, sipping water instead of champagne, her eyes scanning the crowd as if she didn't belong in it. Eleanor noticed. She doesn't chase him. That's unusual. Then came the moment Eleanor had been waiting for. The head butler entered again, this time carrying a small wooden box. Inside it, glittering under the chandelier, were rare diamond earrings, a family heirloom Eleanor had deliberately chosen for the test. The butler cleared his throat. These were misplaced in the study. Has anyone seen them before? Instant chaos. Vanessa's eyes widened. Oh, those are stunning. They must be worth a fortune. She reached for them immediately, but the butler snapped the box shut. Careful, miss. They haven't been claimed. Several other women began whispering. One, named Lydia, smirked and said, You know, if Adrian truly cared for us, he'd gift them to one of us. It would prove he's serious about choosing a bride. Yes, Vanessa chimed in, turning dramatically toward Adrian. Show us who you value most. Give these earrings to your future wife. All eyes turned to him. Adrian's jaw tightened. He opened his mouth to speak, but Eleanor stepped forward, pushing her mop. Forgive me, she croaked in her disguised voice, but those earrings, I think I dropped them earlier while cleaning the study. Gasps filled the air. You? Vanessa sneered. Don't be absurd. A cleaner owning diamonds like that? Do you expect us to believe such a ridiculous lie? Lydia crossed her arms. She's obviously trying to steal. How dare she? The crowd swelled with laughter and mocking remarks. Eleanor stood still, her eyes lowered, letting the storm rage. But then Clara's voice cut through, calm, steady. Why couldn't they be hers? The room went silent. Clara stepped closer, her blue dress catching the light. She looked at Eleanor, not with pity, but with quiet respect. We don't know her story, Clara continued. Maybe she inherited them. Maybe they were a gift. Rich or poor, everyone has treasures they hold dear. Vanessa's face twisted in fury. Don't defend her, Clara. You're making yourself look foolish. Clara turned slowly, her gaze meeting Vanessa's. Foolishness is mocking someone without proof. Kindness is free. You should try it sometime. The crowd gasped again, whispers fluttering like restless birds. Adrian's eyes fixed on Clara, something unreadable flickering in his expression. But Eleanor wasn't done. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small folded note she had written earlier. She handed it to the butler. Read it aloud, she instructed softly. The butler cleared his throat. To whomever finds these earrings, return them honestly to their rightful owner. A reward awaits, but only if your heart is pure. Gasps filled the air once more. Lydia paled. Vanessa's clutch slipped slightly in her hand. Several women glanced at each other nervously. Clara, however, only smiled faintly. Then they should go back to you, she said, turning to Eleanor. They're yours, aren't they? Eleanor's heart swelled. She passed again. But Vanessa, desperate not to lose face, shoved forward. Wait, if the earrings are hers, why was the butler carrying them? This is obviously a trick. Exactly, Lydia added quickly. It's a setup, and I bet Clara's in on it. Look how quickly she defends her. The whispers turned ugly now. Several women began circling Clara like vultures. She's pretending to be sweet, but she just wants Adrian's money. Probably grew up poor, she's playing the innocent card. Pathetic strategy. Clara froze, her cheeks flushing, but she didn't retaliate. She simply lowered her eyes, refusing to argue. Eleanor's fists clenched around the mop. They attacked the one with the purest heart, just like wolves do when they smell weakness. Adrian finally stepped forward, his voice firm. Enough. The room stilled instantly. You all claim to want love, he said, his tone low and commanding. But the moment greed enters the room, your masks slip. Do you think I don't see it? Do you think I don't notice who's real and who's fake? Vanessa tried to speak, but Adrian silenced her with a glance. His eyes lingered on Clara for a moment, softening before he turned away. The violin music resumed. Conversation slowly picked up again, but the damage was done. The cracks were showing. And Eleanor, standing in the corner with her mop, whispered to herself, the wolves are getting restless. Soon the truth will devour them all. The night air was cooler outside the mansion, a gentle breeze rustling through the gardens lit by golden lanterns. Laughter and music still spilled from the ballroom, but Eleanor slipped away, carrying a bucket and mop as if she had truly been dismissed from duty. Her disguise was working better than she had imagined. She had seen greed, arrogance, vanity, and a rare flicker of kindness. But she needed more. A heart wasn't tested in public alone. True character revealed itself in quiet, private moments. As she made her way around the side path toward the servants' quarters, she felt her knees weaken. The wine-soaked scarf from earlier still clung to her skin, damp and cold. She sat on a stone bench, coughing softly, her old body bent under the weight of exhaustion. And that's when she heard a soft voice. Are you all right? Eleanor looked up. It was Clara. The young woman carried a tray of uneaten desserts she must have taken from the ballroom, but instead of joining the crowd, she had slipped out into the night. Her eyes widened when she saw Eleanor shivering. Oh no, Clara gasped, setting down the tray. She quickly removed her shawl again and wrapped it tighter around Eleanor's shoulders. You're freezing. Why didn't they let you change into dry clothes? Eleanor forced a raspy laugh, still in character. Because cleaners don't get luxuries, child. We're invisible. We're replaceable. Clara frowned, kneeling in front of her own. Don't say that. No one is invisible. You matter. Maybe the others can't see it, but I do. The words pierced Eleanor's chest. Her eyes stung, but she blinked away the tears. You're a strange girl, Eleanor whispered. All the rest, they look at me like I'm dirt under their shoes. Why do you treat me different? Clara smiled faintly. Because my mother was once like you. She cleaned houses to send me to school. People looked down on her too, but she taught me that dignity isn't measured by wealth. So when I see you, I don't see a cleaner. I see my mother's strength. Eleanor's throat tightened. She turned her face away, pretending to adjust the shawl so Clara wouldn't see the emotion breaking through her disguise. Clara wasn't finished. She picked up the tray she had brought and set a small plate in Eleanor's lap. Here, you probably didn't get a chance to eat. Eleanor looked at the plate, a slice of strawberry tart. Clara smiled sheepishly. It's my favorite. I thought maybe you'd like it too. For the first time in years, Eleanor felt warmth spread through her chest. Not because of the tart, not because of the shawl, but because of the sincerity shining in Clara's eyes. Then suddenly, Clara! A voice cut through the night. Vanessa. She appeared at the garden entrance, her gown glittering under the lantern light, her face twisted in contempt. Two other women trailed behind her like shadows. What are you doing out here? Vanessa sneered, her eyes darting between Clara and Eleanor. Are you seriously wasting your time with her? She spat the last word as if Eleanor were filth. Clara stood slowly, her posture calm but firm. She's not filth, she's a person, and she's cold and hungry. Vanessa laughed harshly. Oh, please, she's staff. She's supposed to suffer. It's what they're paid for. Don't let her fool you with that pitiful act. Honestly, Clara, sometimes I think you're too naive for your own good. The other women snickered, one adding, Adrian will never notice you if you spend it all your time with the help. Clara's voice hardened. If Adrian only wants a woman who can step on others to rise, Then he's not the man I thought he was. Vanessa's smirk faltered. What did you just say? Clara didn't flinch. You heard me. Love built on arrogance and cruelty isn't love. It's a transaction. I'd rather walk away than lose myself chasing a man's money. The garden fell silent. Even the crickets seemed to pause. Eleanor's heart thundered. These were the words she had been waiting for. Clara wasn't chasing Adrian. She wasn't performing for attention. Her kindness was real, even when it cost her everything. Vanessa's eyes narrowed dangerously. You'll regret those words, Clara. You think being sweet will get you chosen? Ha! You'll be forgotten while the rest of us live like queens. She turned on her heel, her companions following. Their laughter echoed through the garden like knives scraping stone. Clara sighed, shaking her head. Then she looked back at Eleanor and smiled gently. Don't let their words get to you. Some people only know how to climb by stepping on others. Eleanor studied her for a long moment, her disguise almost betraying her as tears burned at the corners of her eyes. She wanted to embrace Clara, to tell her the truth, to reveal that she was not just some cleaner, but Adrian's mother, and that her heart had already chosen her. But it was too soon. Instead, Eleanor reached for Clara's hand and squeezed it weakly. You're a rare soul, she whispered. Don't change. No matter how cruel the world gets, don't lose that heart. Clara nodded, her eyes glistening. I won't. Not as long as I remember my mother's lessons. The two sat quietly in the garden, the music fading in the distance. One, a billionaire's mother in disguise. The other, a humble young woman, unaware that her kindness was already reshaping her destiny. And in that silent moment, Eleanor knew beyond doubt Clara was unlike the rest. But could her son see it too? That question would decide everything. The next evening, the Cole mansion was alive again, this time with a smaller, more intimate gathering. Adrian had invited a handful of the women back for dinner, curious to see who might truly belong in his world. Eleanor, still in her cleaner's disguise, stood quietly at the edge of the dining hall, polishing silver trays no one noticed. Her plan was still unfolding, but she had to be more careful now. Clara had already shown her heart. Vanessa had shown her claws. And Adrian was watching, though she wasn't sure what he had pieced together yet. As the guests laughed and sipped wine, Vanessa leaned across the table, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Adrian, you need a wife who reflects your status. Look at Clara. She's sweet, sure, but she doesn't fit. She doesn't know our world. What will people say when they see you with someone who doesn't shine like us? The words dripped like poison. Clara's face flushed, but she said nothing. Adrian's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, one of the women waved her hand toward Eleanor. And what about her, the cleaner? Why is she always here? I've never seen staff linger during family dinners. All eyes shifted. Eleanor froze, clutching the tray tighter. Vanessa smirked. Yes, Adrian, isn't it strange? This old woman lurks around like she belongs. Honestly, it's suspicious. Where did you even find her? Eleanor's heart pounded. She bent lower, pretending to polish harder, but her hands trembled. If anyone looked too closely, if anyone caught the sharp intelligence in her eyes instead of the dull submission she faked, her secret would shatter. Adrian frowned. She's just doing her job. Leave her alone. But Vanessa wouldn't stop. She pushed back her chair and strutted toward Eleanor, her heels clicking like judgment with every step. Tell us, cleaner, Vanessa sneered. Why are you always hovering? Are you hoping to steal silverware to sell at the market? Laughter rippled through the women. Clara's hands clenched on the tablecloth, but she remained silent, her eyes darting worriedly toward Eleanor. Eleanor kept her head down. No, miss, just doing my duties. Vanessa snorted. Look at her hands. They don't even look like a real cleaner's. Too soft. And her accent, something doesn't add up. The room quieted. Curiosity sparked in the guests' eyes. Adrian narrowed his gaze at Eleanor, studying her more carefully than ever before. For the first time, Eleanor felt her disguise slipping. She couldn't hold his gaze. She turned quickly, pretending to adjust the tray, but the weight of suspicion hung heavy in the air. And then, disaster struck. The thin scarf she always wore slipped from her head, tumbling to the floor. Gasps echoed around the room. Underneath, though her hair was tied back simply, the faint glimmer of a diamond-studded brooch. Something she had forgotten to remove sparkled under the chandelier's light. "Wait," Lydia exclaimed. "Did you see that? She's wearing diamonds." "A cleaner with diamonds?" Vanessa's eyes widened, then narrowed into daggers. "I knew it. She's no ordinary maid. Who are you really?" Eleanor's heart thundered. She snatched the scarf, pulling it back over her head, but the damage was done. Whispers spread like wildfire through the dining hall. Clara stood abruptly. "Enough! Maybe she has her reasons. Why humiliate her like this? She's done nothing to you." But Vanessa only laughed, circling Eleanor like a predator. "Her reasons? Please. She's hiding something, and I'll find out what." Adrian rose from his seat, his voice cutting through the noise. "That's enough, Vanessa." His eyes, however, didn't leave Eleanor. They were sharp, questioning, almost knowing. Eleanor turned away, saw her pulse racing. "Not yet. I can't be exposed yet. Not until I'm sure." She bowed her head low. "Forgive me, sir. I should return to the kitchens." And without waiting for permission, she hurried out of the dining hall, her footsteps echoing down the marble corridor. Clara excused herself, a moment later, slipping after her. She found Eleanor in the servants' quarters, sitting heavily on a wooden stool, clutching her scarf like a shield. "Are you okay?" Clara whispered, crouching beside her. Eleanor forced a smile, though her hands trembled. "I'm fine, child. Just careless." Clara shook her head. "They had no right to treat you like that." Even Adrian looked suspicious. "But don't worry, I won't let them hurt you." The words struck Eleanor harder than any insult. Loyalty, kindness. Clara was already defending her, even though she thought Eleanor was just a cleaner. Tears pricked at Eleanor's eyes. She quickly brushed them away before Clara could see. She's proving herself more with every breath. But she also knew something else. Her disguise couldn't last much longer. Vanessa's suspicion was growing. Adrian's eyes were too sharp, and one slip could ruin everything. The mask was cracking, and soon, whether she was ready or not, the truth would come out. The Cole mansion had never been so tense. After the dinner fiasco, rumors spread like wildfire among the guests. Whispers filled the quarters. Who is the old cleaner? Why does she wear diamonds? Why does Adrian protect her? By the next evening, the whispers turned into open suspicion. Vanessa, more determined than ever to expose Eleanor, gathered several of the women into Adrian's private lounge. "She's hiding something," Vanessa hissed, her voice sharp with venom. "No cleaner wears jewels like that. And did you see how Adrian looked at her? He knows something. I'll prove she doesn't belong here. And when I do, Adrian will finally see that Clara is nothing but a manipulator too." The women nodded, hungry for scandal. Meanwhile, Eleanor stood in her quarters, staring at her reflection in the cracked mirror. For days, she had kept her secret hidden behind rags and a mop. But she knew tonight the mask would fall. "It's time," she thought, adjusting her scarf. "They need to know the truth. And my son needs to see who really deserves his heart." The mansion's grand hall was filled again, this time for Adrian's formal announcement. Everyone believed he would reveal which woman had caught his eye. The air buzzed with greed and anticipation. Vanessa was practically glowing, convinced she had manipulated the night in her favor. Clara sat quietly at the edge, her hands folded in her lap, her simple dress making her look out of place among the jeweled gowns. And at the far corner stood Eleanor, mop in hand, her disguise still intact, at least for now. Adrian stepped forward, his tall figure commanding silence. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "tonight I had hoped to speak about my choice. But before I do, there's something I must address." Vanessa seized the moment. She shot to her feet, pointing a manicured finger at Eleanor. "Yes, Adrian, address this. Who is this woman? She lurks everywhere, always watching, pretending to be a cleaner. But she's not. She's hiding something, and I demand to know what." Gasps rippled through the room. All eyes turned to Eleanor. Adrian's jaw clenched. His gaze swept over Eleanor's bowed figure. "She is part of this household," he said carefully. But Vanessa wasn't satisfied. She strode across the hall, her heels like gunfire. With a sharp tug, she snatched the scarf from Eleanor's head. The hall erupted in gasps. Eleanor's elegant, silver-streaked hair tumbled free. framing a face far too regal for a servant. Even with lines of age, her posture radiated dignity, her eyes glittering like steel. Someone whispered, trembling, "Wait, I know that face. That's, that's Madame Eleanor Cole." Chaos exploded. The billionaire's mother, disguised as a cleaner, standing right before them. Vanessa staggered back, her face pale. No, oh, no, this can't be." Clara's eyes widened in shock, but instead of fear, there was a quiet smile spreading across her lips. Everything suddenly made sense. Adrian, frozen in disbelief, finally found his voice. "Mother?" Eleanor stood tall now, no longer hunched, no longer trembling. Her voice rang with authority, silencing the hall. "Yes, Adrian, it's me. I have been here, watching, listening, testing." She turned slowly, her eyes sweeping over the women. "I wanted to know who was here for love and who was here for money. And now the truth is plain." The women shifted uncomfortably, their confidence crumbling. Eleanor's gaze pierced Vanessa like a blade. "You, so quick to mock, to humiliate, to steal. You draped yourself in pride, but beneath it, you are nothing but greed." Vanessa opened her mouth to protest, but Eleanor's hand cut her off. "Silence, I saw you. Every cruel word, every selfish act. You have failed the test." The room buzzed with murmurs. Vanessa's cheeks burned as she tried to save herself. "Adrian, you can't believe this. She's manipulating you. I'm the one who—" "Enough!" Adrian thundered, his voice shaking the chandeliers. "I saw it too, Vanessa. The way you treated people you thought were beneath you. That tells me all I need to know." Vanessa's face crumpled. She backed away, fury twisting her features, but no words could save her now. Eleanor turned, her eyes softening as they landed on Clara. "And you," she said gently. Clara rose slowly, her heart pounding. "Yes, ma'am." Eleanor smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "You saw a cleaner and gave her warmth. You saw a hungry woman and gave her food. You saw cruelty and chose to stand for dignity. You have a heart richer than any jewel in this room." Clara's breath caught. I only did what I thought was right." "That," Eleanor whispered, "is why you are worthy." Adrian stepped forward, his eyes on Clara now, really on her, as if seeing her for the first time. His chest tightened with something deeper than admiration. "You knew," Adrian said to his mother, "all along, that none of this was about appearances. It was about the heart." Eleanor nodded. "Love built on money will crumble, but love built on kindness will last forever. I wanted to find the woman who could stand beside you when wealth means nothing." The room was silent, all the pretenders exposed, their schemes dissolved. Clara stood trembling, overwhelmed by the weight of so many eyes. Adrian reached for her hand. "Clara?" His voice broke slightly. "Will you?" But Eleanor raised a hand. "Not yet, son. Let her answer with her heart, not in the shadow of this crowd." The guests shifted, sensing the end. Vanessa stormed out, her face red with shame, the others trailing behind like defeated soldiers. Only Clara remained, her small hands still in Adrian's, her eyes shimmering with uncertainty, hope, and disbelief. And Eleanor, watching them with quiet pride, whispered to herself, "At last, the truth has come to light." The grand hall, once heavy with tension, now glowed with warmth. Days had passed since Eleanor's stunning revelation, and tonight was different. No disguises, no pretense, no competition, just truth. Clara stood at the far end of the aisle, her simple white dress flowing like morning light. She didn't wear diamonds or gold, only a small pendant that once belonged to her late mother. Yet somehow she outshone every jewel in the room. Ra, waiting at the altar, could hardly breathe. For years he had been surrounded by women dazzled by his fortune. But today, the woman walking toward him carried nothing but love. And that was everything. Eleanor, dressed in regal elegance now, sat in the front row, her eyes glistening with pride. As Clara drew closer, Eleanor's thoughts whispered like a prayer. Yes, she is the one, the bride I prayed for. The guests watched in reverent silence. Even those who once mocked Clara now sat humbled, their jeweled gowns suddenly feeling empty compared to her radiance. When Clara reached Adrian, He took her hands as though they were the most precious treasure he had ever held. I searched everywhere, Adrian said, his voice breaking slightly. I thought I needed someone dazzling, someone who fit the image of my world. But you, Clara, you taught me that love isn't found in riches. It's found in kindness, in patience, in the way you see people. You are my heart. Tears glimmered in Clara's eyes. Her voice was soft, yet it filled the hall. I never wanted your wealth, Adrian. I only wanted to love someone with all that I am. If I have you, I have everything. The priest smiled. And do you, Adrian Cole, take Clara to be your lawful wife? Adrian's answer came without hesitation. With all that I am, yes. And do you, Clara, take Adrian to be your husband? Clara's lips curved into a trembling smile. Forever, yes. Eleanor rose to her feet, lifting her voice so all could hear. Let it be known, this is the bride I choose for my son, not for her beauty, though she has it, not for her wealth, for she has none, but for her heart, which is richer than all the gold in this room. The hall erupted in applause as Adrian kissed his bride. Clara felt her world transform, not because she was marrying a billionaire, but because she was marrying the man who saw her, truly saw her. And Eleanor, her test complete, whispered through her tears, love, not money, builds a lasting home. The story closed not with wealth or power, but with something far greater, a love pure enough to withstand any disguise. And that's how a billionaire's mother found her son, not a wife of riches, but a wife of true love. Remember, appearances can deceive, but the heart never lies. If you enjoyed this incredible story, don't just leave, be part of our family. Hit that like button, share it with someone who loves a good story, and subscribe so you never miss the next tale. Because the next one might just be even more unbelievable than this.